Hello and welcome to another video in the Navigating the Windows Environment with a Screen Reader series. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Details pane for just a short while and then the Tabs pane. Before we get started, just a quick reminder that though we will be using JAWS for Windows as our screen reader today, you can use whatever screen reader that you're the most comfortable with that works in the Windows environment. All of the processes and commands that we will be demonstrating today are going to be completely Windows-based. Please keep in mind, though, that any speech feedback or tutor messages that your screen reader will be giving you are going to sound different than what you will hear here, especially if you're using a screen reader other than JAWS. But even if you are using JAWS, depending on how it is set up, it might still sound somewhat different. So let's jump in. Let's go ahead and launch our Windows Explorer by pressing Windows key plus the letter E, echo.
Windows E. Amy-VidP. Items view multi-select list box. Not selected. Archive not checked. 5/18/2026 9.
So again, we're focused in our content pane. To get to other panes in our File Explorer, we're going to press the F6 key. I'm going to do that now.
F6. Name split button collapsed.
This is our view area.
F6. View modes. Details radio button checked. To change the selection, press up or down arrow.
This is actually our view modes area, and we can use our left or right arrow to change how our content pane is organized, either by large icons or details. In my particular case, I'm going to go ahead and go past that. This is often where the details pane will show for you, but not all the time. The reason I'm mentioning the details pane here is because it often shows here in the cycle. It is a right side panel that shows the metadata preview of the file or folder that is in focus. It is off by default, but it can be turned on by pressing Alt plus Shift plus P in some versions. And honestly, the reason I'm just mentioning it casually here is because this pane isn't super useful for screen reader users, and the information we need about files and folders can be obtained in other ways. So we're not going to spend any time here, but other than to note that it's here and the way to enable and disable it. If I press F6 again, we're going to end up in the tabs area, and that is the section of File Explorer that we're going to spend the majority of our time on in this video. I'm going to press F6 now.
F6. List box. Amy-VidP tab selected. 1 of 1. To switch pages, press Ctrl plus page down.
Now I'm focused on the tab strip. I'm actually in the tabs pane, but my focus is in the tab strip. Right now, my focus is on the Open tab, which is the landing page of my File Explorer. In the tab strip, there are different areas. If you press left and right arrow, you can move between tabs that are open. If you have more than one, we do not at this time, and we're not going to really focus on that right now. If I wanted to open a new tab or a new location in File Explorer, I could do that by pressing Ctrl T. If I wanted to close a tab, I could press Ctrl plus W or Ctrl plus F4. I can also, to switch between tabs, I can press Ctrl Tab, and you can switch between those tabs without having to actually have your focus in this tab strip. And any of those commands actually work without having focus in that tab strip. If I press Tab here,
Add new tab button. To activate, press space bar.
this is our Add New Tab button. Again, I could have just activated that from anywhere by pressing a Ctrl T to open a new tab. Pressing Tab again will bring the user to the menu bar. So I'm going to do that now.
Up to quote desktop, quote left parent, alt plus up arrow right parent button. 3 of 4. To activate, press space bar.
Pressing the tab here will have your focus on any buttons. As you heard, this is a list of 4 buttons. One button that may be focused on is the back button, which will take the user to the previous location in File Explorer. In our case, there isn't a previous location or a next location, So therefore, those buttons are grayed out and not available to us. That's why our focus is currently on the previous folder button, which means that this will be taking you to the folder that contains the folder that is open. It's the same as pressing Alt plus up arrow. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this button other than to note that it's there or this menu area. Pressing Tab again.
Refresh quote Amy dash vid B quote left parent F5 right parent button 4 of 4. To activate, press space bar.
Puts us on this refresh button. Again, you can also get to this refresh action by pressing F5 anywhere within File Explorer. This can be very useful if you're syncing folders or accessing external media and just need to refresh your File Explorer to see if it shows up. But often it's just another button that isn't super helpful the majority of the time. If I press Tab again,
Address bar edit Amy dash vid B type in text.
I'm focused on the address bar. I can also jump here directly by pressing Ctrl L or Alt D, either one of those. If you type an exact folder location, such as downloads, you can navigate directly to that folder. But note that it has to be the exact name of the folder. So really, I don't use this feature a lot. I do use it for downloads quite a bit because I know that that one will work. If you know that you have an external device, such as a flash drive or a SD card plugged in, and you know the drive name, such as D://, you can type that here as well to go directly there. But not everybody chooses to do that. Some people would just prefer to navigate there in other ways, or sometimes when you insert external media, it will come up automatically. That's kind of another topic here that I don't want to go too far into, but I did want to mention that that's another method for using that address bar. I also like to go to the address bar when I'm not exactly sure where I am. Once you've done a lot of navigating in File Explorer, you can lose sort of track of what folder you're in or what folder it contains. So if you can go to this address bar, it'll announce kind of your folder path, and that can help to keep track of exactly where your focus is in that File Explorer. If I press Tab again,
Amy dash vid B split button collapsed 1 of 2.
I'm going to end up in this sort of button breadcrumb area. Right now, it's on focus on the OneDrive folder breadcrumb button. And if I press that, it would take me directly to my OneDrive. If I press the right arrow,
Amy dash vid B split button collapsed 2 of 2.
It would take me to another breadcrumb area. These are the folders that are contained within these folders. It's a way that's actually kind of nice if you are several folders in to navigate backwards one folder. That's a little bit easier if you don't want to use that Alt plus up arrow. This works as well. It's not necessarily a preferred method of mine just because it's more complex than it needs to be. But to be honest, I just, again, wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that this was available to you. I'm going to press Tab again.
Search Amy dash vid B edit type in text.
This is the search area, and we're going to explore this more thoroughly in a different video. If you encounter this area and you are in there and you don't know how to get out, you can just press Tab to get past it. But it's a great way to do a search for a specific file or folder that is contained within the file or folder that is open. So this is another good way to find a file or folder that you are looking for other than first letter navigation. I'm going to press Tab again.
New button collapsed 1 of 10. To activate, press space bar.
This will place you in the ribbon. Depending on whether a file is selected or in focus, different buttons will be available when the user presses arrow keys. We've been in this area before, by the way, because this is where you find the View button and the Show More Options button, where we changed how we had our views set up for our File Explorer. Let me go ahead and press my right arrow.
Sort button collapsed 8 of 10. View button collapsed 9 of 10. More options button 10 of 10. To activate, press space bar.
Now, you heard that we went past 4 different things, but it said there were 10 items. And remember, if something isn't available to you, it's going to be grayed out. Things such as the cut, copy, share, delete, things like that are grayed out right now because I do not have a file or folder that's in focus from the Contents panel. Remember that most of these can be activated also either through keyboard shortcuts such as Control-X to cut, Control-C to copy, or they're available through the context menu that is available through Shift F10 or by pressing the application key. So you do not need to navigate up here to these buttons to perform these actions, but it's another method that is optional and available. I know this was a lot of information, but it is a good point to know the different areas of our File Explorer to help us navigate and know what we're working with File Explorer. In the next video, we're going to look a lot more at tree views, and it's going to be a little bit more complex, and we're going to come back to some of the concepts we visited here, such as tabs and other concepts later in future videos. So these foundational skills are very important to have. I hope this video has been helpful for you. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day.